Hello, everyone. Welcome as people are starting to arrive for this program today. My name is Tara Jackson with the Arizona Town Hall. We'll get started in just about another minute or so. We want to allow people to work through all those different internet connections and be here for the program. And if you are, as you're signing in, if you are encountering any internet connection issues, just know we are recording this program. We'll have it on our YouTube channel and other places through Arizona Town Hall. But we do hope that if you have those connection issues, you can try to come back on because you might have some questions for the amazing panelists that we have today. So I will probably give it just about another minute, and we'll get started knowing that people will continue to join us for our program today. And just another welcome if you are just joining us. We will be getting started in just about 30 seconds or so. And we know that more will be joining us as we'll get the program started. And for those who just joined, another reminder that I already said, if you have some internet connection issues, just know we are recording this program and hopefully we'll be able to share it broadly for those who care about this really important topic. And with that, I think I'll officially get started. So once again, welcome to all of you attending this program, as well as to the amazing panelists that we have gathered for you here today. My name is Tara Jackson, and I have the honor of serving as president of the Arizona Town Hall. If you are not familiar with our organization, we are a nonpartisan nonprofit, and we've been around since 1962. That's a really long time. And this organization has evolved and flourished because of a lot of wonderful, diverse leaders throughout the decades. Our mission is really about addressing the biggest challenges that face our state, our region, and even our country and internationally now. And I might even pair that, especially with the topic today and the series that we're a part of, our Cross-Border Connecting series, that it is about addressing the biggest opportunities for our communities, our state, our region, and our nation, and beyond. So back in April of 2016, the Arizona Town Hall decided to take on the topic of Arizona and Mexico. We had a statewide gathering on the topic that lasted for several days. It was a powerful gathering and some important consensus that came out of all the participants, the diverse participants who were there. Their conclusion was that the border does not divide Arizona and Mexico. It connects us, and it should be viewed, and we should be viewed, as a binational region. The participants concluded that our region is stronger when we come together and when we all do what we can to break down unnecessary barriers, and that it takes all of us to do whatever actions we can to make that happen because it is so powerful and important. A number of folks at that gathering decided that they were going to take that on in what started with our first program down in Hermosillo, Mexico, as part of an effort and goal to bring Arizonans to Hermosillo, Mexico, and other parts of Mexico to learn more about not only the culture and opportunities with this partnership with Mexico, but the value that all of us get from making our region stronger. That morphed. It was originally expected to be a one-time program. It was so successful that it was repeated every year as an in-person program until the pandemic hit. Then we went virtual. Those virtual programs are now add to the in-person programs. We've gone back to in-person programs and continued with these shorter programs that allow us to reach more people throughout the year. And this is what we call our Cross-Border Connecting series. We are really blessed and could not do these kind of programs without our sponsors and the sponsor for the program today is the Nelson Family Charitable Fund, which has been a wonderful sponsor and supporter of these programs, and in the goal of connecting and strengthening the Arizona-Mexico region. We also could not do these programs with the most important person in making these programs happen. Not only is she an incredible civic leader who retired from a profession in higher education and did so many wonderful things there, but failed retirement to the benefit of all of us by continuing to be really engaged, not only with Arizona Town Hall, but many other civic organizations around the state, crossing borders. She chairs our International Relations Committee, working not only with Mexico, but Canada and other countries. And not only is she a past board chair for the Arizona Town Hall, but a past recipient of our highest award, the Arizona Town Hall Shirley Agnos Award. She also put together this program. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Dr. Linda Elliott-Nelson. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Tara. We have a very exciting program today on language and employability. And there is so much to say about language and how we communicate, especially as we think about it on the border here. But if we think beyond the border, we realize how many countries we're around. We're in a global economy, and it really helps for us to be able to communicate. Any program we do obviously takes a team, and in particular, I would like to thank our collaboration with the Universidad Autónoma de Baja California, that is in Baja California, and in particular with my colleague, Dr. David Toledo, who has worked with us on this particular program. And as well, I would like to send my greetings to my many colleagues at UABC, in particular, Dr. Erika Martinez Lugo and Dr. Jose Adrian Mejia, who we have worked together on different programs. We have some wonderful panelists today that are from Arizona, California, and Baja California that are going to talk with us about language and employability. I will introduce them just before, give you some of their biography just before they speak. And then at the end, you will have the opportunity to ask questions. So if you see the Q&A icon, you can click on that and ask questions even during the program. We will just address those questions at the end of the program when we have the time after the presentations. To get started, our four distinguished presenters are Dr. Alma Montemayor-Sándigo, who is with the Northern Arizona University at the Yuma Branch campus. Doctora Liliana Vizcarra-Noble, who is with the San Diego State University. Timothy Druihet, who is a consultant from the Imperial Valley area. And Dr. Juan Manuel Alberto Perusquía Velasco, who is with the Universidad Autónoma de Baja California. I think you will find all of their presentations very, very interesting. And again, please click on the Q&A if you would like to ask any questions. First off, Alma Montemayor-Sándigo is an associate teaching professor in bilingual and elementary education for undergraduate and graduate teaching candidates at Northern Arizona University, Yuma Branch campus, a Hispanic-serving institution. Alma's doctorate is in curriculum and instruction, with a research focus on effective instructional practices and academic English development for Latino students in kindergarten through 20 settings. She is also a consultant to educational institutions and continually presents at regional, state, and national conferences. Alma is most proud of serving the Yuma community for the past 27 years as a primary teacher, instructional coach, and structured English immersion district coordinator, and of serving the Latino community at large as a past president for the Arizona Teachers of Speakers of Other Languages Association and the American Educational Research Association. She is happily married to Juan Sándigo, a special education biology teacher, with whom she has a beautiful daughter, Sophia. Alma, please go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Elliott-Nelson, and it is a pleasure to be here with you. It is a great honor. Thank you for the invitation. And so I'll start. Okay, so I like to share with you, just because I go with images, I explain myself better. So I'm gonna share with you a PowerPoint, which I know will be available to you as well later on. So I want to talk to you about the superpower of translanguaging. So we'll be talking about languages from a different perspective, or perhaps a philosophy that is engaging educators to think of bilingual children and bilingual people in a different way. So with that, I do want to tell you that I'm bringing this perspective to employees and to employers as well. So when we're talking about the benefits of bilingualism, it shouldn't only be what the employee brings to the business or to the institution, but what can also be developed collectively. So in other words, what do bilingual people bring as a collective group? And so that's what I bring to you. I like to start with the idea of what translanguaging is. Lately, Dr. Ofelia Ortiz has spoken about this idea of translanguaging in education, where we recognize that people don't have one language or another language when they're speaking or when they're collaborating or solving issues. They really bring everything that they have as one. So when I'm speaking in English, I'm not only speaking in English, but I'm also using my linguistic tools that I have in Spanish or that I might have in other languages. So we come not with one language or another, but we come with two languages that really, it's a huge tool, right? So bilingual people bring everything with them all of the time. And so I'm going to try to illustrate and point out how we can prove this as well today to you. So just some basic information about language and bilingualism. When a baby is born, and by the way, this is Sophia, my daughter, all pictures of her. When a baby is born, the baby is actually born with the ability to identify 150 phonemes, or the sounds, 150 sounds that make up all of the languages of the world. So cognitively, we come ready to learn and to acquire a language. And so when a baby's born, for 6 months, they can identify all of the phonemes for any language that is given to them. By the age of 6 months, they start to differentiate and start forgetting the sounds that they don't hear. So those babies that listen to more than one language as babies, they have this phenomenal skill and the ability not only to listen, but also to produce native-like sounds. So that's why when a child learns a second language before the age of 12, they develop a native-like accent. What a blessing, right? Because in reality, they're not developing two languages. They're developing one. And we'll talk a little bit more about it in a second. So when a child develops later on in life and they acquire a second language later after they have cemented the grammatical rules and abstract thinking by the age of puberty, they most likely are going to develop it with an accent. So I learned English when I was 17. I probably will die with my accent that is not native-like. Still, there's lots of benefits of being bilingual. So there has been many studies to show how the brain develops differently in people who are monolingual compared to people who are bilingual, especially those that have become bilingual since they're babies or since, before the age of 12. So the area of connections between the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere has so much more matter that there is greater information between these two sides of the brain. So what does that mean? Okay, so when a bilingual child speaks one language, let's say English, because that's what we hear the most here in our border, in our community, the brain lights up the same as an English monolingual speaker. When they speak Spanish, the brain lights up the same as a native speaker of Spanish. But when they move from one language to another, what we call code switching, or just moving in translation, when you're translating, that change of languages causes all of these connections in the brain like nobody else. And so our bilingual people have the ability to have all these connections in the brain that monolingual speakers may not have, especially, like I said, if they developed both languages as one language. So what does this mean in the sense of ability? In the sense of, you know what, let me just skip this one and then I'll come back and I'll come back. Well, I'll show it to you. And I'm so sorry that it's backwards first. It's the only video I have. So what is the power of developing, you know, bilingual children and bilingual adults? So this is my daughter when she was about 6.
Spanish, and I have done improving on my Spanish. Sofía, entonces tú piensas que el español es importante. ¿Qué tan importante es el español? Mucho, porque si vas a México y no sabes español, tienes que ir por alguien que sabe español para que aprendas.
Okay, so the benefits of being bilingual it's of course, like she said, your communication for sure, right? So, but there's more than that. There is much more than that. So because of the brain, the way that it develops, the brain develops with bilingualism, people who are bilingual tend to have greater social cultural abilities that we know they can communicate in more than one language, but they also develop greater empathy. And so you will see that most of us, or most bilingual people, when they're speaking in their native language, they're making connections to the emotional side of who they are. And most of the time, you know, you speak about logic. You're more logical when you're speaking on your second language. And so that is probably because we acquire our first language and we're connected to mom and dad and we have emotions, while the second one we tend to develop it in a more academic world. And so imagine working with people or serving people, the bilingual people that you might have, as they speak with other people, they can create greater social connections because of that. So I have been in many situations when I'm speaking to a student and we switch back and forth between English and Spanish. It's not because we cannot keep a conversation in English only, but because I know that speaking in their native language is going to create a different identity and a different connection. That only happens with bilingual people, right? Not only that, but also developing a second language improves the prefrontal cortex functions, which is in charge of executive functions and concentration. So that means that people who are bilingual have a better chance of making decisions at a faster rate and in a better way. They can multitask. I'm sorry for the guys, but I wasn't sure about this one, you know, thinking of my husband. He's bilingual, but he can still not multitask, right? So we don't know about that. So we can also, bilingual people have better long-term memory. So they can also have better critical thinking and a greater logical application. All of these has been proven biology in the sense of biology when we look at the brain. So what does this mean in the working area? In the working area, it just doesn't mean to have bilingual people to speak only in one language. The power is when you use all the languages they bring in. So I'm gonna prove that to you. Okay, so I like you to think in one language. Okay, so if you're bilingual, I like you to think about what are the cups and the glasses in this picture. And we'll do our best because not everything fits that category. I understand, okay? So, and I also like you to think, algunos de ustedes, si hablan español, de pensar y de categorizar estas cosas como tazas y vasos. So which ones are tazas and which ones are vasos? So if you were thinking in English and you saw number 2, number 3, number 8, and number 9 as cups, that's usually what we do, right? And number 1, perhaps, is probably the only glass that we have, right? And so if you thought in Spanish, maybe your answer changed greatly. When we're talking about tazas, that might look like number 4. That might be number 6, number 7. Certainly not number 8 and number 3. Those are vasos. So if you notice, we categorize things differently because our language has sometimes a different kind of organization. So the organization of cups and glasses are different in English than it is in Spanish, because in English, we tend to categorize them according to the material that they're made of. And in Spanish, we think of their functionality. And so this is just one simple example that the power is not to think only in English or only in Spanish, but to have conversations in both languages whenever possible. I'm going to show you another example. And I'm looking at my time, okay? So here's another perspective, okay? So again, escoge un idioma. So if you're thinking in English, what attributes, what are the adjectives that you would choose to describe this bridge? Y si es en español, pues, ¿cuáles son los adjetivos que estás pensando? El puente es fuerte, el puente es... I hope I gave you enough time. Okay, so there was a study done where people were asked to describe a bridge in English. And because in English, we use the article that is not really attached to being female or being attached to being male, the descriptions were given in a very neutral way. But they were given to Spanish speakers, and guess how they described the bridge? As a male, strong, beautiful, right? And so we use adjectives that were attached to being a male object. It was also done in German. And in German, the article for a bridge is actually female. So the attributes that were given to the bridge were about, the same attributes that we would give to a female object or person. So think about what these mean when we work together. And so I tried it using ChatGPT. So I checked the brain, of ChatGPT. So this is how it was described, when talking about the sun and the moon. And I'm not going to read everything because of time, but it said something like this. El sol es cálido, es un símbolo de calidez, de vida y vitalidad. Es dorado, radiante y poderoso. Bajo su presencia, las sombras se disipan y la vida florece. Su brillo intenso encarna fuerza, liderazgo, guiando el camino hacia adelante. Very much a male description, right? And then when we're talking about la luna, which is female, it symbolizes calma, misterio, reflexión. Es plateada, es suave, es encantadora. Gobierna la noche con el resplandor sereno. La luna representa la intuición, los sueños y los ciclos de cambio. And so you can see how language also help us describe things in a different way. So just by speaking a second language, your perspective changes depending on the language that you're using. Notice the way that it was described in English, very neutral, that it is seen as a source of warmth and light, essential for survival and prosperity. The sun often represents optimism and promise of a new day, evoking feelings of hope and renewal. So different because there is no gender attached to it. And it just shows really that the power is not just to speak in one language, but to speak in both when we come in together to solve issues and to be critical thinkers. And so I'm just bringing this to you. When we think about global competences, when we think about, a factory where there's a line of people, well, certainly I might need to be bilingual to read manuals and to tell people how to do their work. If that is the situation, then we're limiting language and the power of bilingualism and translanguaging. But if we're thinking of companies that are desiring innovation and critical thinking and different perspectives, then you do benefit in having people being bilingual, not only being bilingual, but having the opportunity of using both languages to create new ideas, to talk about different perspectives and find solutions. So language competency goes beyond the ability to communicate with the people that we're serving in different languages. It really goes with innovation, with creativity, and with the power of progression or progress. And so I like you to think of it as part of global competences beyond the ability of just being able to communicate with more people. It is more than that. It's about the way that we communicate in as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sándigo. Wonderful presentation. Our next panelist is Dr. Liliana Vizcarra-Noble. We have some internet connection issues today with some locations. So Dr. Vizcarra-Noble will be doing a recording. She is with us today, but we will hear her on her recording that she has available. First, I will introduce her. Liliana Vizcarra has been working at San Diego State University since 2003, where she initiated as a binational presenter under Professional Skills Development Center at San Diego State University Imperial Valley campus, with topics related to English as a second and foreign language. Her experience and knowledge in the field of linguistics allowed her to teach as part-time faculty at universities such as the Universidad Autónoma de Baja California and San Diego State University. Currently, she is director of the Professional Skills Development Center department in charge of continuing education programs, as well as test design and linguistic proficiency rating. She has a bachelor's degree in English language teaching, a master's in applied linguistics in teaching English as a foreign language, and a doctorate in education. Please welcome Dr. Liliana Vizcarra-Noble.
First of all, thank you for the invitation to participate in this panel on language and employability. Thank you to Arizona Town Hall. The first time I heard the topic that this panel was going to be about, the first thing that came to my mind was a conversation that is constant when we are designing and creating study programs for workforce projects. For the last 25 or 30 years, I have been working in the field of linguistics, from tailoring training certificate programs for ESL, EFL teachers, to coordinating programs in our region focused on ESL classes to empower students. We have seen, and we have been very fortunate to see firsthand the impact this has in our workforce community. Seeing such positive outcomes in our students as a consequence of language learning reinforces and encourages us to keep creating programs that will enrich our communities' personal and professional lives. Every time we see our students completing a course or a program, we emphasize that although this is an important stepping stone in their life, they should never stop exploring within their jobs, within their profession, to always have that proactive attitude about their work life. Personally, it kind of helps me, and I have shared it with them, visualize our work life as some sort of like a toolkit, like a toolbox, where we keep all these skills, all these experience that we have gained, maybe continuing education that can be represented from micro-credential we took, a workshop, and online training. And all this reinforces our employability. It's part of our self-development. And as mentioned before, my experience as a binational linguistics professor and as a language teacher, and just being part of wonderful teams that design regional programs to empower students to integrate or reintegrate into the workforce, has always reinforced the belief as to the importance of the English language And we need to make sure we transmit this to our students. Due to globalization and internationalization, we see from small to big businesses, from big corporations, many of them already operating in more than one country, and many of them setting goals for expanding their businesses. And many of these are already working with people overseas. So considering this scenario, in order to communicate with others, with other people that you're working with and who probably don't speak, or maybe they don't speak the first language, your first language, then we need that common language to convey a message, right? To negotiate, to communicate successfully, to get our message across and avoid any misunderstanding at work. And one of those common languages is definitely the English language. And of course, having that second language component in our toolkit will help us in terms of communication, but also in terms of a better job opportunity, or maybe even within the company or the place that you're working at, maybe the opportunity for job promotions or assignments abroad, leadership roles, and maybe for those people who are interested in studying or even working in other countries. So for this particular presentation, although we focused more on English language learning, many refer to learning a language as a window to culture. So when we learn a language other than our first language, we are not only learning the grammatical rules of the language or the vocabulary of the language, but most important, we're learning about the culture of that target language. In this language learning journey, we are also, besides developing the foreign language or the second language, we're also developing and knowing more about the culture of the target language. So we're developing values such as respect to those differences between the cultures. So as to the workplace, all this comes into play in such a positive way. It helps us because we need to interact with others when we're working. So we need to communicate with them, right? We have to work with teams in multicultural context. So the development of these skills, aside from the language, will allow us to interact, build successful work relationships, reach work goals, and communicate better. So we strongly encourage everyone, and I include myself, to learn more languages. Language learning provides so many personal benefits and not only professional ones. Thank you to everyone, and I will now have my colleague continue with our topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vizcarra-Noble. And we have already heard from one of our participants, Nelson Campos, that said that it's a wonderful explanation. Our next presenter, our third panelist, is Timothy Druihet. He brings 30 years of experience as an administrator and analyst in education and workforce development in Imperial County. As director of Imperial County's Child Abuse Prevention Council, Mr. Druihet provided training and coordinated services and activities that addressed barriers and the needs of parents and community members to help them succeed. As a program manager for the Imperial County Office of Education, Mr. Druihet worked 15 years developing, implementing, and overseeing a multitude of services for students, parents, and local agencies to address the social, emotional, and linguistic needs of those experiencing barriers and challenges. As the lead administrative analysis for the Imperial County Workforce Development Board for 11 years, Mr. Druihet worked with the Workforce Development Board and local agencies to address the employment and training needs in Imperial County. Mr. Druihet possesses a master's degree in education, counseling, and a bachelor's degree in liberal studies psychology. Mr. Druihet.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, and thank you. I want to say thank you to the Arizona Town Hall for inviting us. I'm very much looking forward to this. As a matter of fact, it's so much, I believe, good information to share a snapshot of Imperial County and kind of threading in what our presenters have shared before, because fortunately it fits. So let me tell you a little bit about Imperial County and languages that we speak and how beneficial it can be. In Imperial County, as you know, we share an international border with Mexico, and our population locally is predominantly Hispanic with about 85%, and Spanish is commonly spoken both at home and in the workplace. And due to our location, Imperial County's culture is strongly influenced both by the United States and Mexico. Extremely important for both as a prospective employee and employers. And I'll tell you a little bit more why. Our economy in Imperial County relies heavily on our cross-border clientele in Mexicali, Mexico, and other parts of Mexico, but mostly Mexicali, which is right next door to us, literally. This means that a majority of businesses and services here in Imperial County serve a primarily Spanish-speaking customer clientele. So given that, it's not surprising that most employers in Imperial County look for candidates who can speak both English and Spanish. I want to say at a minimum, it's not there yet, but it's going there. It's going in that direction. So not only do the languages that we know enhance our employability in Imperial County, but also our understanding and ability to understand different cultural contexts. Cultural competent employees, as reported by only employers, are better equipped to engage with a multicultural workforce and clientele. I'm pretty sure most of you that are from this area can notice that in about anywhere we go, in the hospitality or retail or what have you, the different approaches that we really need to know and understand culturally and dealing with different clientele. For example, the easiest example I can think of personally is in Spanish, whereas in a store, for example, retail, where the formal ustedes is often used in the Spanish culture, which personally is far better than what we're hearing today. You don't hear too many sirs, thank yous, ma'am, mister, but fortunately we're building on that slowly. And we can learn a lot from our bicultural partners and our Mexico heritage. A survey over 600 local Imperial County businesses approximately 10 years ago showed that not only being bilingual in Spanish was number one on their rank list, but also was soft skills is ranked as one of the highest needs. And with soft skills, as you know, that has everything to do with customer service, communication, etiquette, work ethic, all those things. But still today, as reported by local employers, and I'm just talking Imperial County here, but they report that that is the number one need in terms of training for employees, the social skills. And in order to do that, being bicultural, both here with our Mexico and United States culture, greatly enhances that and greatly enhances the employability of our local residents that are bilingual. Again, employers point out that communication and customer services are one of the most important aspects and skills in their toolkit. I love Dr. Vizcarra's analogy of a toolkit. But having that bilingual is a huge tool in their toolkit and is most desirable of our local employers here in Imperial County. And for more than just a few reasons, as I had said. They find that folks that are bilingual and able to communicate both in English and Spanish are better at keeping and building teams at work, both in the workplace, also at home. Having that understanding in the cultural context, both the United States and Mexico and the workplace helps, I think, people and parents to share and impart that in their children and the importance of appreciating and celebrating not only diversity, but our cultural heritage here. Because if you live here in Imperial County, and this is just for me, please, it's not a quote, but you really are immersed in a truly bicultural geographic area, and it's a wonderful thing. Here locally, I just want to give you an example of some of our major employment sectors and how having another language, in this case, Spanish, can benefit those applying. And also I want to mention that there are jobs here in Imperial County where necessarily Spanish or English speaking, excuse me, is not required. And that's because we have so many bilingual citizens here that it's really not necessary. For example, if you're not working directly with clientele or customers, then a lot of businesses find that it's not necessary, and they'd much rather have that responsible, person, mature and responsible and honest, in their workplace. And the language in that regard plays kind of secondary, only in the sense of not needing it at work. So, for example, in agriculture, which most of you know, we're an agriculture-based economy here. Predominantly laborers are employed here that does not require English language. However, foremen and supervisors and, going along the spectrum of jobs in agriculture absolutely do require English and Spanish to best communicate, not only with employees, workers, but also clientele. In our hospitality, which is another of our major sectors here, and restaurants and hotels, for example, although maybe staff, for example, in cafeterias or maintenance and such related, folks who do not have to deal necessarily with clientele or the public representing the businesses, employers say they do not require speaking. It is preferred, mind you, everything I'm saying, employers are saying that it's preferred, but I'm just giving kind of a matter of fact that there are jobs, but compared to for monolingual Spanish speaking in Imperial County, but compared to those that are bilingual, there really is no comparison because there are far more opportunities for bilingual individuals in Imperial County. In the healthcare, there are some jobs, for example, again, if not exposed or representing the public or interacting with customers or clients that need to have the English language spoken, but there are jobs, for example, in maintenance and cafeteria and things like that. So there are opportunities. And by the way, I need to mention, as importantly, with these opportunities for monolingual Spanish speaking, there is room to advance. So that is an awesome excellent opportunity in all these fields. And I say that because I want to impart, just because at this point in time, you don't feel comfortable with a second language, let's say Spanish or English rather, excuse me, that doesn't mean that you're, off the board for getting a good job here in Imperial County, because they are available. As Imperial County, excuse me, along with the businesses surveyed and their responses in terms of the soft skills needed, that cultural competency keeps coming up over and over with employers. Their ability to better serve their customers as employees and represent the business, their ability to better communicate, to understand, and I love what the presenter before said, and developing empathy. That is apparent according to employers. So a valuable asset for bilingual folks here in Imperial County entering the job market. I want to mention something a little bit looking into the future. The lithium industry in Imperial County has begun. And I'm sure you've all heard about all the many jobs that are going to be generated, and that is true. But most of the jobs for the lithium industry itself, there aren't a whole lot of jobs for scientists and engineers. However, we believe that they're going to be needing to recruit, for example, in Mexico as well, for engineers, and for that matter, across the world. They're also, emphasizing that the languages that you speak, the more languages that you speak in this industry, particularly with the wide range of potential employment opportunities for local individuals here and around the world for that matter, it just broadens and widens their employability as an asset as employee. The more languages that you know in this industry, because remember, they're going to be dealing with worldwide clients. So again, you can see it kind of all ties in nicely. Along with those jobs, we project, or it's projected that approximately, you're going to hear a lot of numbers, but I'm just going to say 300 to 500 kind of immediately. And that has to do with getting the, construction phases and all that, a lot of labor jobs, a lot of operator jobs out in the field. And some of those, as I had alluded to before, won't require necessarily to speak English, but the majority of the jobs, they made it very clear, do require. Again, because of well, I didn't mention this before, but the fact that internationally, most instruction manuals, most policies and procedures, company operations manuals, things like that are printed in English. So from just a safety perspective and an organizational perspective, yes, employers are really looking at English language as a necessary skill. I mentioned a few occupations that are going to be open with the lithium industry. I only mentioned a few of the top ones. Of course, there's going to be lots of administrative staff inside the office and corporate office, things like that here locally, maintenance operators outside, laborers, truck drivers. There's quite a few different fields that will be opened up that have not been opened up previously. So I say that in encouragement for any of those listening that please don't be discouraged by what I said about having English. However, just know that be on the lookout, because there might be ways that even if you have some English, that's what you need to get in for a lot of these positions. As important as the lithium industry is the number of jobs brought in by ancillary or secondary businesses that will locate here and be established here to support that emerging, huge industry. For example, it's projected that there will be a lot more retail stores, hospitality stores, shops, things like that, transportation, construction, homes, all that to accommodate, the influx of not only employees for the industry, but there's also along the lines of that industry, down the line, there are going to be thousands of jobs created, for example, for battery manufacturing and things like that. We can't say yet that those contracts here locally for those thousands and thousands of jobs are, etched in stone right now, but that's the plan. So it's a great opportunity here for many folks who we've never had this type of opportunity before. So I would highly recommend that folks keep your kind of pulse on that and check the Imperial County website. Has a lot of excellent resources about the lithium industry, different things that are going on now, both in the past and current. So that's an excellent source for you for folks out there to keep in touch with. So we can see just by that, brief and yet quick, I realized that overview that in Imperial County, how being multilingual, not just bilingual, but multilingual is advantageous and is seen as an asset to local employers. And again, I can't stress enough how much local employers talk about how much better equipped in general bilingual individuals are in dealing with their customers. And dealing might be a strong word, but in communicating, in customer service, and understanding and imparting, information. And in turn, the whole goal is to help the business be successful. And that's what businesses are looking for. So thank you very much for your time. I hope we have some good questions. I'd be more than look forward to answering them. Thank you, though.
Thank you so much, Mr. Druihet, for this. And we are very honored to go to our fourth presenter, who is from the Universidad Autónoma de Baja California. Dr. Manuel Alberto Perusquía Velasco has his bachelor's degree in foreign trade and customs from the Universidad Iberoamericana, a master's in international trade, and a doctorate in administration from CETIS University. He is a full-time research professor at the Universidad Autónoma de Baja California, assigned to the Faculty of Accounting and Administration. He is a member of the National System of Researchers of CONACYT, certified within the Program for the Professional Development of Teaching Staff by the Secretario de Educación Pública, certified academic in the area of international by the National Association of Faculties and Schools of Accounting and Administration, and a member of the Academy. He is a full professor at the institution where he teaches, as well as a guest professor of undergraduate and graduate courses related to foreign trade, international business, senior management, strategic planning, competitiveness, and social responsibility, both in national and foreign higher education institutions in Mexico, the United States, France, and Spain. Dr. Perusquía is the author and co-author of various publications in indexed and popular science journals, as well as other dissemination and scientific communication products, book chapters, and books. He is an external consultant in the area of foreign trade, primarily for the maquiladora industry and in general for the companies related to the exporting sector. Please help me welcome Dr. Perusquía.
Thank you for the invitation. Great to be here at Arizona Town Hall. Thanks, Tara. Thanks, Linda, for that wonderful introduction. You're most generous. And congratulations to all of my peers on their presentations. Very interesting, all of them. Now, being language and employability the focus of this online forum, I prepared this presentation, which is entitled The Importance of Multilingual Professionals in the Workplace. Next, please. In today's globalized world, proficiency in other languages and, well, of course, specifically in the English language has become a fundamental skill across a wide range of professional fields. The growing interconnection of markets, the increased international mobility, and the expansion of multinational companies have placed languages such as, well, English at the center of global communication. Next, please. This is magnified in specific jobs and roles located near borders where, two or more languages are used. Such is the case of the Baja California region, where capitals and industry from other countries besides the US converge. Let's say from Japan to Spain, from France to China, just to mention a few. Making it necessary for professionals to manage other languages. Here, we will explore with this presentation how the use of other languages impact professional development in various jobs, as well as the role of multilingual and cross-border contexts. Next, please. In translation and interpretation, English, as we all know, is often the reference language due to its prevalence in literature, technology, and international business. Even so, knowledge of other languages is also important, very important. Translators and interpreters who are proficient in several languages can facilitate communication between speakers of different languages in various contexts. From diplomatic meetings to international conferences, etc. Nonetheless, English still serves as an essential bridge that allows for the accurate transmission of information and mutual understanding in an interconnected world. In this field, being bilingual and better yet, multilingual, not only expands job opportunities, but also enhances the ability to interpret and translate cultural and technical nuances, which are vital for the precision and effectiveness of communication. In customer service, the use of other languages plays a crucial role, specifically in the global companies operating in multiple countries. Bilingual or multilingual customer service professionals can handle inquiries, resolve issues, and provide assistance, which is essential for serving an international customer base. The ability to communicate in other languages, but specifically in English, enables these professionals to access a broader range of opportunities and advance their careers within the multinational company level. Furthermore, in border regions where linguistic diversity is high, proficiency in English facilitates interaction with customers from different backgrounds, improving service quality and customer satisfaction, of course. Next, please. International sales specialists must negotiate and manage business relationships in a global environment where, of course, English is one of the predominant languages. The ability to communicate offers, discuss contractual terms, and collaborate or coordinate also in strategies makes it crucial for these specialists to know not only English, but preferably several languages. Being bilingual or multilingual allows these professionals to interact with clients and partners from various countries, understand and adapt strategies to local needs, and overcome cultural barriers. In other border areas where interaction with speakers of several languages may be required, proficiency in other languages, and English, of course, in particular, aids in the effectiveness of integration and coordination with other teams and markets. Market analysis analysts working internationally need to understand and interpret data in several languages, as many information sources and market studies are available only in their native language. The ability to read and analyze reports, articles, and data in other languages allows analysts to provide relevant and strategic insights for business decision-making. In jobs near borders, where skills in multiple languages may be required, English, in this case, helps integrate and compare data from different regions, offering a more comprehensive view of the global market. International trade consultant, next. In international trade consultants advise businesses on how to enter and operate in global markets. English as the language of business and trade is essential for drafting reports, negotiating deals, and communicating with international clients and suppliers. However, the ability to work in other languages besides English enables consultants to offer accurate and up-to-date advice, facilitating their clients' international expansion. In border regions where additional linguistic and cultural challenges may arise, being bilingual or multilingual enhances the ability to handle diverse situations and coordinate activities in multiple languages. In project management, involving globally distributed teams, English is often used as the working language. Project managers who are proficient in English can coordinate tasks, draft reports, and facilitate meetings with international teams more effectively. The ability to communicate clearly in English as well as other languages is crucial for ensuring that all team members understand the project's objectives and progress. In cross-border contexts, where coordination between different languages and cultures is required, proficiency in other languages besides the native tongue facilitates project management and integration. Next, please. In public relations, the use of other languages is vital for handling communication with international media and managing a company's reputation globally. Bilingual and multilingual professionals can tailor messages to resonate with different cultures and manage their company's image across various markets in border regions. Also, where handling of multiple languages is common, English acts like a link language that facilitates effective communication with international and local audiences. In human resources, the use of other languages is essential for managing recruitment, training, and personal management in multinational companies. The ability to draft reports, descriptions of jobs, conduct interviews, and handle documentation is crucial for operating efficiently. Additionally, in border areas where employees may speak multiple languages, being bilingual or multilingual allows for better integration and communication with a diverse workforce, promoting an inclusive and more cohesive work environment. Next. Content writers and editors working with other languages are responsible for creating and adjusting text and, for global audiences. The ability to write and edit in other languages ensures that content is clear, persuasive, and accessible to international readers. In border regions or multilingual markets, the ability to work in multiple languages and adapt content according to their target audience enhances communication opportunities and effectiveness. In education, the use of other languages, and of course English in particular, plays a crucial role. Proficiency in other languages allows teachers to create and adapt educational materials, deliver effective lessons, and assess student progress. In multilingual areas or near borders, bilingual or multilingual educators can provide instruction in a varied context and tailor their approaches to meet their needs and the needs of the students with different levels of language proficiency. Next. As we could see, proficiency in other languages, and specifically in English, has a significant impact on various jobs and overall professional development. In a world where interconnectivity and international mobility are the norms, the ability to communicate in other languages offers crucial competitive advantages, as well as we saw here, from translation, interpretation, to project management and public relations. The use of other languages acts as a bridge that facilitates communication and cooperation in a global and multilingual context. In border environments where multiple languages are employed, being bilingual or multilingual not only enhances the ability to interact with diverse audiences, but also opens the door to new professional opportunities and facilitates the growth in an increasingly interconnected job market. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Perusquía, for that very interesting presentation. It is now an opportunity for our participants to ask questions. I have a first question for Dr. Perusquía. For the Baja California area, you work with many different companies. Could you tell us some of the companies that come from other countries and the countries that they come from that are present close by?
Yes, of course. Mainly of the bulk of the foreign investment here in Baja and, well, in Mexico in general, it comes from the US. But here in the Baja region, we also have investment from Japan, from China, from Korea, from Spain, from France, from Ireland, just to mention a few. And even though entry-level positions just need Spanish or Spanish and English, if you want to climb up the corporate ladder, you need to know other languages.
Thank you so much. We have some questions from our participants. and also from one of our panelists. So first, I will say again, if you wish to do a question, please click on the Q&A icon and write your question. Si prefieren hacer su pregunta en español, está bien, pueden escribir su pregunta en español. One of the first comments has to do with the assumption that any staff member that they hear either speaking in English or Spanish or another language, that they would be able to interpret and translate. And many times people are not compensated for that particular type of skill. Would someone like to address the difference between the assumption that they hear someone speak in another language and then how that ties into or does not tie into the ability to translate or interpret professionally? And I will add to this another question that was brought up, that is, how do businesses assess language competency in order to compensate for these skills? Because that also has to do with that. Who would like to address those two questions? Dr. Perusquía, please.
Okay, here, at least here in Baja, in Mexico, what happens is that, as I pointed out, the entry-level positions just need Spanish or Spanish and English, just bilingual. But let's say you work at a Japanese company. If they know that you know or you are learning Japanese, they'll tend to offer you other positions and start climbing up, you know, get a better job. So that's basically how it works.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to address the difference between speaking and the levels of language competency that also tie into translation and interpretation at a professional level? Alma?
I just like to add a little bit, just because we're working with our leadership, Latino leaderships at students at NAU, and we do make a distinction between being Latino and having a Latino identity and being a professional Latino. And so to become a professional Latino, we also want them not only to speak the language, because I am amazed of how our students here in our region maintain the oral language, even though they have not had any formal bilingualism in education. It is amazing that they can retain the language, but now we need to move them into having the professional language that they need. So we do encourage our students to move into the idea that they are not only Latino, but professional Latinos. So I think that by looking at that, we are making a distinction, and we are pushing our students to say, take classes, take courses, or prepare yourself so that you can improve in the language of your profession.
Thank you. Liliana?
Yeah, and definitely, I think that when it comes to translation and interpretation, it does have to do a lot with in what field, right? If it's in the health field, for example, if it's in a hospital, of course, you have to be a lot more cautious, you know, of anybody translating or anybody interpreting. Definitely, that's why I think it's so important, you know, that we have those professions in the university level that, you know, are concentrated fully on interpretation and translation.
Thank you. We have a question from a participant that is wondering what third language they should learn and what any of the panelists recommend as their third language. Who would like to address this? Okay, Dr. Perusquía, thank you.
Well, actually, it depends what kind of a job are they aiming for. Let's say if they're in the maquiladora sector, besides English, they could, as I said, learn Chinese or Japanese, Korean maybe. because those are the most common maquiladoras here in the Baja region. But it depends on which sector or companies in particular they're aiming for.
Thank you. We have a question for Mr. Druihet. This participant says that he or she works for a state university in Mexico. Earlier this year, an organization reached out to the university called International Alliance Group, which is associated with the state of California, promoting jobs for university students in a variety of degrees related to teaching, medicine, and engineering in different cities of California, with the possibility of obtaining temporary work, a temporary work visa. This participant cannot recall the name of the visa, however, has said that this visa had a duration of 2 years with a possibility of an extension for 3 years. So the question is, and Mr. Druihet, I know you're in California, if the state of Arizona had any plans to promote something similar, but maybe you want to address just the visa situation.
Well, I truly wish I could, but I cannot because I don't have that much professional information about it. As reading the description of it, I'm not familiar, actually, even in our area, if having that, what she said, the visa and the context for professional training, and it sounds like it's something that maybe like an internship. Is that maybe what they're referring to as well?
What I believe, Mr. Druihet, it might refer to is what is known as the TN visa, where if if you're a citizen of Mexico, you can go to the capital city of Mexico and have an interview with the embassy there. And the TN visa can be more rapid to acquire as far as a temporary work permit. However, it is for specific professions, for example, engineering, and in some cases, healthcare. And that might be what the participant is directing to. We have another question that's very interesting on how would you adapt more easily to the American work culture? And is there a difference in terms of language? Who would like to address this?
I could share.
Okay.
Again, I'm just gonna give my personal perspective based on employers here in Imperial County, because that's really all I know, professionally. Yes, I would say there definitely is a difference. And I truly appreciate that difference too. As I mentioned in my, quick little overview of employment opportunities in Imperial County, employers really, and I use the word really lightly, appreciate the ability for folks that have grown up with both Mexican and United States culture, and understanding that the culture and context and communication is absolutely, I see personally, a difference. For example, the way that customers, let's say in this sense, are addressed, right, in a more formal, positive, polite manner. Now, please don't take me as stereotyping. I'm not stereotyping anyone. I'm just giving an example. In general, what employers are saying that they appreciate that more formalness of the Hispanic culture, as now that we're seeing here locally, as opposed to those that are, let's say, monolingual United States. Again, I'm not making a big distinction. I'm just saying employers really appreciate that and see a difference. So that is an absolute asset.
Thank you very much. We have a question for Dr. Sándigo, and this is from Dr. Erika Martinez Lugo of UABC. What is the status of the teacher shortage in Arizona? Is Northern Arizona University addressing the issue? What about the implementation of a dual bilingual program? Do you know of teacher training programs in Arizona that aim at bilingual education?
That is an excellent question, and thank you for asking it, because indeed the gap continues to be great in Arizona. there is a great need of having teachers, and mostly bilingual teachers, especially for the areas like Yuma, where we have a great number of children who are considered English language learners. Yes, sadly, bilingualism is also part of politics, and it's involved and engulfed in politics as well. And so NAU and UABC offer bilingual programs for teachers. And what we have seen is that the teachers who graduate with this kind of endorsement, they tend to go into leadership positions. So in Yuma, for example, many of the teachers who have graduated with this endorsement end up being principals, teacher of the year, advocates, and moving to different areas. So it is an area that we said, and we push teachers to take. Right now, we are close to graduating 34 students in bilingual education. And so it is very much alive, even though it's there is a political ramification of all the things that are happening in Arizona. We do want teachers coming from other places. And actually, if you speak to Dr. Lady Hernandez, I know that we are in the process of creating this partnership with UABC for a while now, but it's moving forward. So if you like more information, if you don't mind, I can share my email. Would that be okay? And I can put you in contact with people who can talk to you about visas specifically for those teachers who want to come and teach here in Arizona.
Thank you, Dr. Sándigo. We have so many great questions here. Here's another one on, have you seen instances where professionals get stuck in geographical areas due to being bilingual? Who would like to address this? Okay, Dr. Sándigo.
I just wonder what the person who's asking means by getting stuck. Does that mean, like, you know, that they stay at the border because that's where bilingualism is more common?
I believe that might be it. For example, they might remain in Imperial Valley, or they might remain in Yuma County because they're bilingual. Have you seen instances where that has occurred?
I think it has to do with the workforce, right? If they have a job here and it has to do with being bilingual, you know, and that's one more plus for them being employable, you know, maybe I think it could tend to have you stick to a place. But I feel that right now, in many states, and not only the border states, you know, it's needed. It's one more tool, like we said, you know, in that toolkit. And I feel that it's for sure not something that it's only needed nowadays in the border. But of course, you know, if it's a demand from the workforce, then pretty sure, you know, you're going to stick to the border or to a city where you're needed because of the job you have.
Thank you. Yes, Dr. Sándigo.
I just wanted to add what Dr. Vizcarra-Noble was saying. I feel that it is true, that it is the job. And I also feel that it's part of identity, that many people who stayed is because they have identified themselves with a bilingual community as well. So I think it is the job, but it is also your identity and where you feel more comfortable, where you feel you belong to.
Thank you, Dr. Sándigo. We have had a couple other comments as well. One has to do with the amount of revenue that is raised by having consumers, for example, from Mexico, buy product either in the Imperial Valley area, the Yuma County area, where businesses will make sure that their employees that work with customers will make sure that bilingualism is a plus. The other one is that this forum, it was not offered in Spanish. We have done that in the past, and we did not do this with this forum. We do have another forum coming up on November the 14th that will be on micro-credentials, and we can certainly work with the UABC that has offered an interpreter for those particular forums. We have a question, and this is actually from one of our panelists, Dr. Sándigo, that is for Mr. Druihet, on Mr. Druihet, do you believe that people who have been exposed to two cultures have developed the necessary soft skills to join the workforce, or do you recommend formal training to address these particular soft skills?
If I had to choose, I would say both, but if I had to choose, it would be training, formal training. What I didn't say, and as a result of a survey of over 600 local employers in Imperial County, was that it's the soft skills training was needed. You know, I focused on the need and necessity of soft skills, you know, for working for the business, but they also pointed out training in soft skills. So I would say training in soft skills, regardless, well, I would say if you're not teaching soft skills or the like, then we all could benefit from ongoing training in soft skills, which, you know, of course, involves the customer service, communication, understanding others, all of that. So yes, continue training.
Thank you. We have another question. I think we have time for two more questions. And in this one, and this is probably for Dr. Perusquía, in general terms, what is the best path to follow for Mexican engineers with experience and bilingual abilities to pursue a job in the United States?
Okay, I think that the main course here would be to find a company here in Mexico that has a parent company in the US, and then try to make the jump from Mexico to the US company. I've seen this several times. It's much easier to do this than to go directly to a US company and try to offer services, or go through an internet provider that helps you find a job in the US. So basically, stick to a Mexican company that has a parent company in the US, and then make the jump. That's my experience.
Thank you. Mr. Druihet?
Yeah, I can give a local example where the individual's calling, I don't know, for personal reference for themselves or just in general for anyone. But here locally, the Imperial Irrigation District, which is the county's, I believe it's the largest employer, if not close to the county. Anyway, they are often in need of engineers, and I know that they work with Mexico and engineering and degrees and such. So I would contact the Imperial Irrigation District, their human resource department, and ask about that, because I know that they hire into engineers that aren't from the United States. So, and I know for a fact they have some that they recruit from Mexico as well.
Thank you. We have one more. Yes, Dr. Sándigo.
Just to add, I'm so sorry. But just thinking of availability, I also know that at least in institutions, higher education, there is always, because we are now moving into binational projects, they're always looking for professors who are able to teach at universities on these sides, especially at the border. I know that NAU has several professors that are coming from UABC and from Mexicali, because we understand the power of their input.
Thank you. We have one more question. This is from Adriana Romero. And she said that it's important to, you know, people have said it's important to start to work to obtain experience while you are a student. And in what semester of study would you recommend that type of experience, work experience while you're a student, take place? Yes, Mr. Druihet.
I would say from what I've seen, and I would say the earlier the better. So sophomore in high school would be excellent. Before that time, an individual I know that can do volunteer experiences, for example, through maybe the church or a community organization. That volunteer experience when one is younger and going through school is extremely important nowadays to employers. Now, after they graduate high school, they go on to college, but that volunteer experience that they had And then maybe starting a sophomore, maybe with the workforce as maybe an intern or something, but that is absolutely invaluable experience when an employer looks at that and looks what you have done kind of in your earlier years. So yeah, I'd say start young and formally with employment in the workforce, I would say maybe a sophomore and or junior because of the academic requirements nowadays.
Thank you so much. We've become we've arrived at the end of our time, and thank you to our wonderful panelists today, to Arizona Town Hall, and especially to Dr. David Toledo and the Universidad Autónoma de Baja California for collaborating with us on this forum. Like I said earlier, we will have an upcoming forum on micro-credentials on November 14th. And we would invite everybody to participate. I will turn the program over to our president and CEO, Tara Jackson.
Well, first of all, thank you so much to the panelists. I know I learned an incredible amount, not only about the value of being either bilingual or multilingual for individuals professionally and businesses and even our region, but I found it fascinating to also learn that knowing multiple languages increases your executive function and allows you to be a better professional just for that reason alone. Really helpful information, I think, for all of us to have. And I appreciate your thoughts and all the questions of the participants as well. I want to thank again our financial sponsor for this program, the Nelson Family Charitable Fund, who has sponsored a lot of these programs, and we really appreciate that. And personally, Dr. Linda Elliott-Nelson, who not only put the program together and facilitated it, but will be preparing a report that we'll publish and distribute afterwards, summarizing the program so that many more can benefit from the great information you have. Few other quick reminders for all who are still on. The recording of the program will be accessible and you can share it. You probably already have in your inboxes, if you registered for the program, a survey. We would love your feedback, including future programs as part of the cross-border series or even of any of the programs that Town Hall will be focusing on. So thanks again to all of the wonderful panelists and of course our amazing facilitator, Dr. Linda Elliott-Nelson, and thanks to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you
Have
all.
a wonderful evening.
You too.
Thank you all.
Thank you.